What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Today we're gonna do a little bit more of like a chit-chatty style video. I thought since it's the holiday, it might be a good time to kind of review 2022 as a whole for my two businesses and kind of share the lessons I've learned, how things have been going, all that. So let's get into it. As I was reflecting back on my life as a whole over 2022, as well as my two businesses, it kind of had that simultaneous feeling of a lot of stuff happened, but also kind of not that much happened. So let me give you a little overview of what 2022 has been like for me, and then I'll dive into those lessons that I've learned. Now, the biggest item that's happened to me personally in 2022, which has also trickled over into impacting my businesses, is that my family and I decided to make a move from San Jose, California to San Diego, California. And as I was reflecting and getting ready to make this video, I realized it was Christmas Day 2021 that my husband first proposed the idea to me that we seriously consider making this move. I've mentioned before that we used to live in San Diego up until 2012, and we moved up to the Bay Area then with the hopes and intentions always of someday moving back to San Diego. In fact, we would talk about it at least once a month. But it was Christmas 2021 that was the first time my husband actually was seriously saying, like, let's talk about putting some plans in motion so that we can actually make this move. By February 2022, we realized that it was possible for us to make a move, and if we wanted to, we could do it basically right away. So we took a couple of months to get our lives all wrapped up, for me to close my office in San Jose, and by April 2022, we had moved to an Airbnb in San Diego area while we looked for a house in San Diego to purchase. And we were lucky enough to find one. Thank goodness. I love our new home. We got to move into it in June 2022, and by August 2022, I also moved into my new office here, which is where I am right now. By the time we moved here in April, I was still exclusively pumping all of my youngest daughter's milk, which is a whole thing. It takes up a lot of time. And my daughter also wasn't yet sleeping through the night. I was still getting up with her at least once, if not twice per night to feed her. So I was still very much in the postpartum fog at that point, which very heavily influenced my businesses as well. And fast forward to now, I'm filming this in December 2022. I'm no longer breastfeeding. My daughter's been sleeping through the night for a while. And so I feel like I'm in such a different headspace even than just 6 months ago. Now, I know that's a whole bunch of updates about my personal life, but as you'll see as we get into the lessons of 2022 for my businesses, that all the things going on for me personally were very much influencing what was happening in my businesses as well. In fact, as soon as my husband and I started talking about maybe actually moving this year, I said, I'm going to stop taking new clients in my therapy practice. I'm going to stop doing kind of anything kind of big and courageous in private practice skills. I'm going to just quietly keep things running, see my existing clients in my practice, post my weekly video to private practice skills, and that's it. The rest is like, I'm gonna just put all my energies into moving and trying to make it as smooth as possible. Despite me focusing on just keeping things kind of up and running, doing the bare minimum for my businesses did see steady growth throughout the year, but there was a huge shift right after we moved where suddenly my income went way up. So I'm going to share actual numbers with you in this video about what my incomes look like over the year. So for reference, back in January 2022, the revenue that I pulled in from both my private practice and private practice skills came out to $8,960, which, considering that I only work 2 days a week, is incredible, and I'm still blown away by that. And fast forward to now, I'm filming this in the middle of December, so my most recent month of November 2022, my revenue for that month was $21,570, which is incredible that in the scale of 10 months, I more than doubled my income. So that brings us to one of the first lessons that I really learned in 2022, which is that stability leads to growth. And I mean this in two ways. One, slow and steady did win the race. My income was gradually going up even when we were in the midst of the move and I was just doing the bare minimum, because my whole private practice skills business is built on the model of, as my audience grows, my income will grow with it. And so my audience was still slowly but surely growing and my income was scaling with it. But the added layer of this idea of stability leads to growth came with the concept that once I felt like our feet were fully planted in San Diego, we bought our house, moved in, Also for me, I moved into this office, which started in August 2022, but I wasn't really settled in until like September. My income just absolutely multiplied. I fully attribute my growth in income to the sense of stability that I've gotten in finally landing and settling into a new place. It opens up my mind, it opens up my capacity to do stuff, and just logistically, I don't have to be spending time, packing and unpacking boxes and researching, daycares and finding a new doctor for my kids. Like once all those things are all settled down, I have more time. So just to paint a picture of how my income jumped at that time, if we look at my revenue generated just from the months of June through August, those 3 months, I pulled in $27,450. But if we just look at the following 3 months after that, of September through November, the revenue I pulled in was $56,920. Again, just working 2 days a week, my income more than doubled, which is incredible. And again, I primarily attribute this income leap to the sense of stability that I've gotten from finally moving into these new places and also being able to fully exit the postpartum hormonal sleep deprivation breastfeeding fog. The next lesson that I think I'd already learned but it really got reinforced in 2022 is that doing less fosters more creativity, ingenuity, productivity, and yes, income. For me, when I work full time, my capacity to think straight significantly declines. So if I contain my work week into 2 or maybe max 3 days, I am at peak productivity, creativity, capacity to accomplish a lot of things. Now, I mentioned that my entire business model for private practice skills is built on being able to grow an audience, and that leads to my next lesson, which is the larger your audience, the more leverage people have to offer negative feedback. Now, when I use the phrase negative feedback, I'm not just talking about corrective feedback where somebody says, hey, you might have missed the mark a little bit, or you got that piece of information wrong, or here's a little bit of feedback to improve. I'm talking about people being straight up mean. At the beginning of 2022, I had just over 20,000 subscribers to my YouTube channel, and now in the middle of December 2022, I'm approaching 40,000 subscribers. And as my audience has grown on YouTube, I've noticed that the quality of the comments has shifted and in a very specific way. It used to be the case that almost universally every comment left on my channel when I was a smaller size, people were addressing me directly. They might say, hey, Marie, thanks for sharing that, or I have a question about this, Marie, or whatever it might be. They're talking to me. And something happened in this last year where, I still get those comments, but there's also people leaving comments with a clear assumption that I'm not going to be reading their comment. So instead of saying Marie, they refer to me as she. Oh, she got it wrong when she said this. I can't believe she's doing that. To be honest, at this point, I'm not able to read all my comments, but I do see some of those comments. I've had to set a lot more boundaries as far as how much I can look at the comments on my channel, because even though the vast majority of the comments on my channel are very kind, it just takes it. I'm still a human being. Like, tell me, like, somebody leaves a really unkind comment about you, or, calls you a name, or throws you under the bus for whatever reason, it doesn't feel good and kind of throws off your mood, at least for a moment in time. And if that keeps happening, it wears you down. The next lesson that I've learned is imposter syndrome never goes away, especially if I'm always looking to challenge myself, try something new, grow, do things differently. My imposter syndrome just flares back up again. I've spoken before that I just sort of assume that if I'm doing anything meaningful or important or that's, authentic to what I care about, I'm going to feel a sense of self-doubt. Am I really qualified to do this? Who am I to talk to 40,000 people on YouTube? And some of those things are legitimate questions to ask, but also if I allowed that imposter syndrome to drive the car, I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff. Another lesson that I've learned in 2022 is that the more I grow my audience size, the more offended people get when I don't give my time away for free or for ridiculously cheap. This seems to be kind of backwards from how I would have assumed things might have operated, that, when you're really small, you're still trying to grow your audience, you might be willing to give your time away for free because maybe it gets your name out there or whatever, there's some sort of benefit, and that hopefully as you already have an audience, you already are earning the income you want. If somebody wants your time, they probably need to pay you enough for it for you to justify giving your time over to it, unless there's some significant other value that's taking place that makes it worth my time. So if I feel like I can have a significant impact to a larger group of people by giving my time away, then I might say yes to it. Or if it helps me lean into some other values that I'm not always able to live out in these sort of income generating means, then I will say yes. But a lot of times it's folks in a situation who are generating their own income off of having me give my time to them, who aren't necessarily compensating me for it adequately. And it's interesting to see people seem to not understand that concept. Another lesson I've learned in 2022 is that unless I fiercely hold on to my boundaries, I will drown. Before 2022, if somebody sent me an inquiry for a personal consultation, I might at least reply and send them some information about where to go, even though I personally don't offer individual coaching. But at this point, I get so many of those emails that I just have to not respond. In fact, I have a notification on my contact me part of my website that says any emails related to individual coaching consultation, I'm not going to reply to them. Even with that there, I get so many of those emails flooding my inbox every day. Even though as I'm talking about this, it clearly makes sense to me why I have to set these boundaries, I still feel so uncomfortable saying no to everybody, even though just mathematically the hours in the day, I don't have them to give. It's this part of me that wishes I somehow did have the time and capacity to just give away my time, but that doesn't exist. I realize as I'm looking through my list of lessons learned in 2022 that I wrote down, I did not put these together in any sort of order that makes sense. So we're just kind of jumping around. The next lesson learned from 2022 is that it is possible to charge less and earn more. Now, I mentioned a couple times that my primary strategy for private practice skills is around building an audience. And my hope always has been that if I build a large enough audience for private practice skills, I can really start to scale back how much I charge for things or offer more things for free, but still be able to be adequately compensated for it because there's enough people out there maybe purchasing my products that it all feels justified. That's really played out in 2022, where I'm starting to make more products that are cheaper and cheaper. I have some set goals for 2023 where I'm going to be offering things that are even more affordable than what I already have, finding ways for people to access information even for free if possible, and yet to still be able to earn more income on my end. Now, the next lesson I learned in 2022 reiterates and builds on some of the stuff I've already said, but that's that most of the time, saying no to most things is usually a good idea. I have a much clearer vision honed in on what my goals and purposes are, and unless somebody asks me to do something that just absolutely lines up with what I'm working towards, I'm gonna say no. So when I get an email inquiry from somebody saying, they want to sponsor my videos, they want me to teach a course for them, or, they want to somehow ask me to do something, I'm going into that email with the assumption that my answer is likely to be no, but let me read it just to see, just in case it might so happen to line up with my values. And that really has been a shift for me in 2022. Beforehand, I would have more of that eager, maybe this is an opportunity for me and be so excited going into an email like this, and then maybe potentially being let down if it felt like it wasn't quite what I was looking for. But now there's kind of an assumption that most of the time I'm probably going to say no. I think it's because I've so ruthlessly held these boundaries around I only work part-time and I only give my time to the things that align with the values of my business that I have been able to still generate a successful kind of full-time income even though I work so little. And my 10th lesson from 2022 is that entrepreneurship has the potential to be extremely lonely. Not only because there's not so many entrepreneurs, but also it can be possible that as you befriend fellow entrepreneurs, there can somehow be this sort of undertone of a competitive mindset. So for example, if something's going well for my business, that somebody else might have trouble feeling happy for me because maybe they're going through a hard time, which is completely legitimate. And vice versa. Oh, why is that thing going so well for my friend so-and-so when I've been working on that for so long and I could never get the results that they're finding? As much as we are mature and we do the best that we can to try to move through that and be the bigger person and overcome it, it's still there somewhere. And so it can become quite isolating even within a world of entrepreneurs. So I've found, especially in 2022, that the people that I'm most drawn to are people who have kind of no interest in entrepreneurship at all. It's a point of tension for me internally because I clearly care about those things, or else I wouldn't be doing this. I care about those things a lot, but also when I surround myself with other people who equally care about those things, I find myself starting to feel really lonely, and I need to balance it out with people who really just aren't focusing on those things at all. Well, that's all the lessons I put together for this video. Of course, there's more lessons than just that in 2022, but I, one, have a feeling that this video is already probably really long, and also I'm feeling a little bit like, was this a helpful video for you? But that's my own imposter syndrome coming out. Hopefully for at least some of you watching, it's useful for whatever reason. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. Therapy Notes helps with all of your practice management needs, from scheduling to notes to billing. They have a HIPAA secure telehealth platform for all you virtual therapy therapists out there. So if you're interested in checking out Therapy Notes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, whatever might be going on in your life as we close out 2022, I hope this encourages you to take a moment to kind of reflect on what lessons you've learned this year as well, and kind of mentally prepare your game going forward into 2023. I know for me, I'm planning on scaling back even more in 2023, offering things that are even more affordable, and I don't know, I got some other ideas, but we'll see what happens. It's the holidays. I'm gonna enter holiday mode now. So until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.